Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs, the most caffeinated committee in the Nevada State Legislature. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assemblyman Carter.
Present.
Assemblyman DeLong.
Present.
Assemblyman De Silva.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblyman Gurr. Assemblyman Hibbets. Assemblyman Koenig. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblyman Wynn. Assemblywoman Taylor. Assemblywoman Thomas. Chair Torres.
Welcome to the audience here in Carson City. I apologize. If we could please make sure we mark Assemblywoman Gonzalez absent, excused. As a reminder to members of the public, we do have a number of legislators that might have to step out to present a bill, and I know that Assemblywoman Gonzalez might be out for this meeting in order to do that, and so that is definitely she'll make sure that she watches this back later and looks over the notes so that she's prepared for any upcoming work sessions. Welcome to the audience in Carson City, those joining us by video conference and those joining us over the internet. Just a couple housekeeping items for you. Please make sure that you silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to the committee secretary. For those joining online, please be sure to mute your microphone when you are not speaking to minimize any background noise. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name and affiliation, if any, for the record. Then turn on the microphone each time you are done speaking. Handouts should have already been provided to the committee staff. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we may not agree with another person's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. In addition, the public may submit written testimony to the committee up to 24 hours after the hearing. So today we do have a bill as well as a work session. So we're going to go ahead and start today with a bill hearing. I will let members of the public know that we have 2 bills. In case anyone is here for the bills on work session, I will be pulling 173 and 333. I believe that there's a couple more adjustments to the amendment or the work session documents that we would like to make before work sessioning those. The intent is still for us to work session those documents likely tomorrow morning. So just please be aware of that if those are the bills that you are here for today. At this time, I will go ahead and open up the hearing on AB 391, which revises provisions governing public works. And I believe Assemblywoman Monroe-Moreno is here. When you're ready, you may begin. I will also remind committee members that there was an amendment that has been posted on Nellis for this bill, so please make sure you're taking a look at that amendment.
Good morning, Chair Torres and committee. I believe this will be my last time presenting before this committee this session. But it's good to be back, and presenting with me today is Mr. Vince Saavedra with the Southern Nevada Building Trades and Mr. Danny Thompson. Thank you. As Nevada reopened for business following the pandemic, we learned, or at least I hope we learned, ways that we could do business better and encourage new business growth in our state, while also doing all that we can to provide training and employment opportunities for Nevada residents near where they live. We're here today before you to present Assembly Bill 391. After working with the Building Trades of Nevada to develop a process to assist us in those goals. Just to give you a little background history on the reason why we're here today. Back in 2011, the city of Henderson asked for a legal opinion from the Attorney General, at that time was Catherine Cortez Mastos, regarding the legality of project labor agreements, especially as it related to local hiring preference. That conclusion with the opinion, and I quote, is as follows. The city may not require local preference for city residents for all public works projects in excess of $100,000, since the city lacks legislative authority to do so. Simply put, AB 391 will provide that legislative authority for local hiring preference in public works projects, also known as community workforce agreements or priority hire policies. Providing for local hiring preferences creates access to careers using local government construction jobs, makes for a more diverse workforce, and can spur economic growth in economically distressed areas. As the chair mentioned, there has been an amendment presenting. It's a major amendment to this committee, and with your permission, Madam Chair, I'd like to go back to my committee where I'm having a budget closing, and I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Saavedra and Mr. Thomas, who will walk you through the bill and the proposed amendment.
Thank you. Please proceed. Thank you for all the work that you're doing in a equally hardworking committee. I did not say the hardest.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Vince Saavedra. I'm the Executive Secretary Treasurer of Southern Nevada Building Trades. For the record, Vince, V-I-N-C-E, Saavedra is a common spelling. Our organization represents over 30,000 skilled craft trades workers across Southern Nevada. Our affiliate unions sit on apprenticeship committees who train highly skilled construction workers that are needed to build Southern Nevada's economy. As proposed to be amended, AB 391 is an important step in building future projects with local government entities in Nevada, ensuring apprenticeship training is expanded across Nevada, and that local workforce and disadvantaged workforces are provided opportunities across our state. In 2011, the Attorney General's office issued an opinion that provided local government could not enter into construction pre-hire agreements with prioritize of the hiring of local residents. The AG's office opinion, the AG's opinion that the legislature must authorize in statute the ability of local government to enter into such agreements. As proposed to be amended, this is a much simpler bill than what was drafted initially. Whereas the original draft bill sought provisions bidding preference for local hire among contractors, which included compliance requirements, this bill is merely providing enabling language to allow local government to do what the AG prior opinion stated could not be done without legislative authority, which is allowing for a preference for local hire based on geographical residence. As proposed to be amended, this bill simply provides enabling language to allow local governments to provide for local government resident hiring preferences and pre-hire construction agreements for public works within its jurisdiction. These types of agreements have benefited several large areas over the past couple of decades. This includes agreements like those of the community workforce agreements for the LA County Unified School District. I look forward to working with local governments across Southern Nevada, whether in Clark, Lincoln, or Nye, to continue to negotiate these types of agreements to expand workforce training for local residents to ensure local residents are hired to perform the construction work on public works projects. I've spoken with a few of you already, and as you know, I'm a big community guy, not just the union guy. And I believe that people from underserved communities should be building their communities. And this will give people an opportunity to go to work in their community and create pathways into apprenticeship for people in underserved communities who have never had the opportunity to join an apprenticeship. With that, I'd like to pass it to my colleague, Mr. Danny Thompson.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. For the record, Danny Thompson, representing the operating engineers, Local 3 and Local 12. I served as the executive officer of the Nevada AFL-CIO for 20 plus years. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a long time. And in that capacity, it was my job to help. I represented everyone in the state, but specifically the building trades in the northern part of the state and southern part of the state. When they were working on these types of agreements, I was always a part of that. Oftentimes in meeting with local governments who wanted to enter in one of these agreements, the question would come up, can we do that? And the answer was no, because of this Attorney General's opinion, you lack the legislative authority, and that's all this bill does. I don't have the proposed amendment in front of me. I was just trying to look for it. it's pretty lengthy. It basically guts the bill and puts that's basically all it does. It give them the legislative authority to enter into an agreement if it makes sense for them. If it doesn't, they don't have to. But it would allow for the hiring of local residents to do local work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Councilwoman Carter.
Good morning, and thank you for the presentation. So I'm trying to get this straight in my head, what we're trying to do. And I know that in the workforce agreements that have been in place, both in southern and northern Nevada on the building of utility scale solar projects, that there has been requirements to have a plan for local hire and then goals that must be met. Is that what this is trying to achieve? Because that program's been highly successful on creating entry points for marginalized communities into the construction world.
Yeah, Vince Evager for the record, through the chair to Assemblyman Carter.
Please just go directly to the
Okay,
member.
so basically, Assemblyman Carter, like, for private jobs, it's okay to do that. For public jobs, we're being told right now that it has to be done through this process, so that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go to Assemblyman DeLong and then Assemblywoman Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This amendment really simplifies the bill. Someone with my simple mind can at least get through it. So I appreciate that. Is this really just trying to address issues down in Clark County?
Vince Evager for the record. No, it's just because I represent Southern Nevada Building Trades. That's why I named those counties, but this would benefit the state. And a lot, when I talk about things like this, you'll hear me say underserved community versus minority communities or other communities, because I feel that talking with other elected officials in rurals, they always feel like their communities don't get a fair shake to work on projects. So this I'm hoping will help the whole state of Nevada. And like I said, provide opportunities for people in the rurals as well. If we're building a solar project in Nye County, people from Pahrump will have an opportunity to work on the project that's in their backyard.
Okay, thank you. May I follow up? Appreciate that. So if we're talking about rural counties, let's just say, pick White Pine. And there's a project happening near Curry. How does the area that gets covered by this get defined when you have highly dispersed populations? And because in the definitions you talk about within the local government's jurisdiction, and then that's usually a very small area. So how are you trying to define them, what areas are covered, so you know which people would be eligible for the local hire or not?
Madam Chair, for the record, Danny Thompson. Yeah, and I think that would be up to the local government to define that, right? And their jurisdiction, they would decide as the owner of the project, you know, what they would put in the agreement and where it would apply to.
Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I think that I'm supportive of just about anything that we can do to really help those in our local areas take advantage of the work opportunities that they have in their area, especially as you look at something like the trades, when those are really good paying jobs and can really make a difference for families. So thank you for bringing the bill forward. I just want to make sure that to clarify, this is permissive for local governments. This isn't saying that a local government has to enter into this type of an agreement. I just want to make sure that's clarified.
For the record, Danny Thompson, that's exactly right. This doesn't require anything. This just allows them to do that. And if it makes sense for them to do that. And I think the classic example is the agreement at the Southern Nevada Water Authority, where we had a need that was critical at the time in the early 1990s, where 90% of the water in Clark County comes from Lake Mead, and we only had one way to get it out. And the infrastructure was so lacking that they needed the job done immediately, and they needed it done without interruption, and so it made sense to do that. And so all this does is allow local governments in Nevada that same authority, but the authority has to come from you all. It doesn't require them to do anything.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assemblyman Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the amendment, I'm looking at Section 1, subsection 2B, just for, do you have a copy? Well, I'll read it to you. How about that? Subsection 2B says, for each resident described in A through C of subsection 1, that the resident's driver's license or other government-issued photo identification card demonstrates an address which qualifies them as a resident of the described area. So my question is, does this mean that anyone that is working under this program for a public work would be required to have a government-issued photo identification?
Vincent Vager for the record. I'll follow up to make sure, but I would imagine it's yes to, or proof of residence. I know there's been discussions of providing proof of residence like we would through a school district or something with a power bill or some sort of bill. So there's discussions about that as well, of what other means we could use to provide residency.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I think I had that conversation with them as well yesterday, because I do think that driver's license, the way it's used here, it's not proof of residence. It is driver's license, so that would need to be amended into the language of the bill, just to be very clear, especially knowing that, you know, certain communities are less likely to have access to driver's license. And additionally, just sometimes that change of address might take time for an individual to file. I believe we had another question from Vice Chair Duran.
Thank you, and thank you for this clarification. So I was just wondering what brought on that opinion in 2011, if you can elaborate.
For the record, Danny Thompson, the opinion was requested by the city of Henderson when they were approached about one of these agreements, and they asked if they had the authority to do that. And I don't know if you have the opinion. I can get you a copy of the opinion. Catherine Cortez Masto was the Attorney General at the time, and her opinion was that they did not have the legislative authority to enter into one of those agreements.
I'm going to go to our legal counsel to talk a little bit more about that as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So just briefly running through the issues. Dillon's rule is a legal principle that local governments only have the powers assigned to them by the state legislature. Some other states have home rule. Nevada is a Dillon's rule state. And that's the core of that Attorney General's opinion from 2011, that because the legislature hasn't explicitly granted cities the power to do these kinds of labor agreements, the cities were without the power unless the legislature gave it to them. Subsequent to that opinion in 2015, the legislature actually passed a modified version of Dillon's rule that gives local governments control over matters of local concern. The definition of matters of local concern actually includes public works projects by local governments. So arguably under that modification of Dillon's rule in 2015, local governments would have this power, but what we've seen over the last several years is that local governments, and especially local government attorneys, are reluctant to rely upon that broad grant of authority to carry out expensive projects that could potentially be legally challenged, and they prefer instead to have explicit authorizations for things like these kinds of labor agreements. So while local governments may arguably be able to do this now because the modification of Dillon's rule by the legislature in 2015 kind of superseded the Attorney General's opinion from 2011, this bill would make it crystal clear that at least for this particular kind of agreement for a public work, local governments would have the power.
And a follow-up for the Vice Chair.
Thank you. So does that still require that the local governments would be able to review the bids, or is it just giving them authorization to pick who they would like to pick for a public works job?
For the record, Danny Thompson, I think to repeat what you just said, that makes it crystal clear that they have the authority to do this. And then one of these type of agreements is up to the parties, right? I mean, you can agree to whatever you want. In this particular case, having local hire is important, and I can think of more than one case where a group of people, well, and especially in rural counties, where they want to, when they were going to construct the Crescent Dunes project in Tonopah, they wanted to use people from around Tonopah to do the project, and it was a huge solar plant that ultimately, I don't think it actually worked out. I don't know if it's still open or not, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that little bit of history. Members, any additional questions? And just one last piece of clarification. There's nothing in this language mandating that local governments do this, correct?
This, for the record, Danny Thompson, this does not mandate local government to do anything. It just allows them to do something that would be in their best interest.
Okay, perfect. And I actually had a question. This might be best for legal too. I'm looking at the amendment, section 1, sub 2A. Because it's stated in here, wages paid to workers that are at least as much as those under the requirements of NRS 338. Is that necessary language? Because I know that this is also within chapter 338.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So it's difficult to say with certainty whether that would be necessary or not. Effectively, that would be applying prevailing wage requirements to these agreements. If it is a public work, generally prevailing wage would apply. However, when we're getting into the realm of agreements that are separate from public works agreements, to the extent that there could be any sort of private party involved in this, that the work is somehow constructed for instead of the local government, that's kind of the same as the public-private partnership issue. A creative lawyer may be able to work in something that makes it not a public work for prevailing wage purposes. So including that provision would make it explicit that work subject to these kinds of agreements would be subject to prevailing wage regardless of whether there's a way that they're determined not to be a public work.
Thank you. I think that's helpful because I had a couple of questions about that offline, and so I think that kind of gives some clarity of like why that section might be important, important part of this piece of legislation. I think that's all our questions. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of AB 391. As a reminder to those in the public, everyone will be granted up to 2 minutes to present their support. Please begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Rob Benner, B-E-N-N-E-R, with the Northern Nevada Building Trades. We are in support of this bill. For many individuals, an apprenticeship program in the building trades is a pathway from poverty into the middle class, and a lot of times that only takes a couple months. So anytime we can allow government to target these communities and create these pathways, it just benefits that community as a whole and Nevada as a state. Thank you.
Greg Esposito, representing the Nevada State Pipe Trades. Good morning, members of the committee. Random scenario. You're the City Council of Fernley, for example, and you're building a new city hall. And it's going to be an extensive project, probably one of the biggest your city has seen in a while. Chances are the contractors winning that project are probably going to be out of Reno because they've got their game together a little better. They've got the manpower a little tighter. And for the entire length of that project, you as a city council person are watching your city hall get built, and everyone that's on that project is driving in from Reno every day or, staying in some hotels. And your high school kids that wanted career opportunities and your current residents of the city would have loved those opportunities to work there, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no way for you to have put the people that you answer to on the project that you approved. This bill would fix that. This bill would make it to where those underserved communities, those rural communities that need these opportunities, have the chance, if they so choose, to work to make sure that their people are on the projects, the people that it's going to serve, the people that it would best serve are on those projects. So we urge your support of this bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Nick Vasiliadis for the record on behalf of the Carpenters Union. For the sake of brevity and due to all the reasons that you already heard, we also support this. And the only thing I'd like to point out is that clarity that we need at the local levels, I think it can't be understated. And so for all the reasons you've already heard, and for that specific reason, the Carpenters Union stands in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support of AB 391? Not seeing any BPS. Is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support to AB 391? I know that we actually have a line of callers, so I'll just remind callers, like, please feel free to just say ditto, state your name, spell your name, and then say ditto for the record. Thank you.
Callers, if you'd like to testify in support of AB 391, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair.
Hello, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ronald Young. I represent the IBW Local 357, and I want to lift up what everyone's already said. Thank you for your time and vote yes.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 433, please go ahead.
My name is Bob Horton, business agent with the Ironworkers here in Las Vegas. I fully support this bill, and I think it's.
I apologize. Could you please restate your name for the record?
Support for your jobs.
Sir, could you please state your...
Bob Horton, Horton. Oh.
Hello, I apologize. We could not hear you. Could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes. My name is Bob, B-O-B, Horton, Horton. I'm the business agent here in Las Vegas. The ironworkers fully support this bill, and local labor will take more pride in the job being done at him. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits.
Sorry.
Go ahead, caller.
Basil Johnson, IUEC Local 18 elevator constructors. I am in full support of this. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. We should keep our money in our local areas. It helps people take a sense of pride and in their communities when they are able to work on a project that is close to them. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 809, please press star 6 to unmute your microphone.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Aaron Ibarra, Aaron Ibarra. I just want to urge your support on this bill. I think there's an opportunity to really create a generational change for a lot of community members that might not have an opportunity to work on projects like this before. It puts your constituents to work, and I think at the end of the day, we should want to keep the money that we spend on these projects to stay in state. So I urge your support on this bill. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 219, please press star 6 to unmute your microphone. Please go ahead.
Sorry, this is Joe Boswell representing IUEC Local 18 elevator constructors, and I'd like to let the committee know and Madam Chair that we are in full support of Assembly Bill 391. We think it's a great thing for the state of Nevada, and we'd like to see our money spent on these projects kept to local workers in the state of Nevada. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the last three digits 769. You're unmuted on our end. Please go ahead.
This is Juan, Juan, last name Orpineda, Orpineda. I represent the iron workers from Local 416 here in Las Vegas, and we are in full support of the AB 391. Thank you.
Yes, this is James Tisani. James, James Tisani, Tessanne. And I'm in full support. I'm with Local 433.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Perhatch, Jeffreyperhatch, and I support AB 391 and urge this committee to do so as well.
Hi, my name is Joseph Tillema from the IUEC Local 18 Elevators Constructors Union. I support AB 391. In addition to reasons already listed, this revision could be the difference in state funding between out-of-state individuals and in-state families. The wages earned by Nevadans would multiply when going to schools, grocery stores, restaurants, and all other retail stores. Thank you.
Hi, this is Leslie, Leslie, Patu, Patu, Heat and Frost Insulators, Local 135, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Jimmy Schwartz, JIMMY SCHWARZ. I'm with the Ironworkers Local 433 in Las Vegas, and we support this bill. We urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Name is Brandon Beardsley, BRANDONBEARDSLEY. I support this. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Anthony Sarabia, SARA, B as in Bravo, IA. I'm from Local 433 Union Ironworkers. I support AB 391 and urge this committee to do so as well. Thank you for your time.
Hi, this is Robert Diaz, ROBERTDIAZ, representing SMART Local 88, sheet metal workers out of Las Vegas. We are in support of this bill.
Good morning. This is Brandy Glass, spelled BRANDIGLASS, with Southern Nevada Building Trades, and I am in support of Bill 391. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kyle Halama, KYLEHALAMA, supporting Local 433, and I support the AB 391 and urge this community to do so as well. Thank you.
Good morning, Councilman, or the Council and Madam Chair. This is Darren Smith, journeyman with Local 433, and I support Bill 391.
Callers, if you've recently joined the line and would like to testify in support of AB 391, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Yes, good morning, Torres and committee members. For the record, my name is Alfonso Lopez. I represent the sheet metal workers and aerial transportation. Guys, we are also in full support of AB 391. This bill would assure that tax dollars earned on prevailing wage jobs are earned by Nevadans and not the economies of Arizona. And we strongly urge your full support on this bill. Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify in support at the time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in opposition to AB 391. I don't see any here in Carson City. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to AB 391?
Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to AB 391, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify neutral to AB 391.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alexis Motorex with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors, representing commercial construction in Northern Nevada. We appreciate the intent of this bill as amended, but we're neutral at this point. We just have concerns with Section 1.1C. We think the language is a little vague and could be taken advantage of by giving broad discretion to awarding bodies to direct work to specific contractors or subcontractors by designating a jurisdiction outside of their geographic boundaries. But again, we appreciate the intent and would love the opportunity to work with the sponsors of this bill to tighten that language and achieve the desired result. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Mary Walker, representing Douglas County, Lyon County, and Story County. We are neutral in regards to AB 391 with the amendment. We did have some concerns. We were actually opposed originally, mostly because a lot of the smaller jurisdictions, we have to cobble a lot of money together just to do one project, and it's very difficult finding that type of revenue source for the rurals. This would have increased our costs on these projects by 5%. So by enabling this, that alleviates that concern, and now we're neutral, and we want to thank the sponsors and Chair Torres for bringing the amendment forward. Thank you very much.
Chair Torres, members of the Hardworking Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, Leonardo Benavides, City North Las Vegas Government Affairs Manager, here today in neutral. We appreciate the sponsors for bringing this amendment. We're still trying to wrap our heads around how some of these ideas work, but we appreciate the permissiveness language that's in there, and we appreciate the concept and the idea of making sure that we can support more of the local community. Thank you.
Morning, Chair Torres and the assiduous members of the Government Affairs Committee. For the record, David Cherry, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. As the namesake municipality behind the AG's opinion that is at the center of today's discussion on AB 391, I felt compelled to have to come forward and to say that the city is neutral on this legislation so long as it remains permissive. I also want to thank Mr. Killian for putting on the record that under the 2015 Home Rule Law, we likely already have the authority to choose the mechanism that this legislation provides, but always would appreciate the clarity that something like this might provide in terms of also putting it into law. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, and very caffeinated and hardworking committee members. For the record, my name is Glenn Levitt. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Nevada Contractors Association. We represent over 450 of the largest and smallest contractors, subcontractors, and affiliated industry professionals in Southern Nevada. The Nevada Contractors Association appreciates the discussion with the bill proponents, We're neutral at this time in reviewing the amendment. We support local hiring. We're interested in how this could be applied to a series of projects. As stated in the amendment, how would that agreement work since the contractors are not typically awardees of multiple contracts at once? We look forward to discussing this further. Thank you.
Thank you for reading that testimony, Mr. Levitt. At this time, I'll invite anyone else wishing to testify in neutral to AB 391. I don't see any here in Carson City. BPS, is there anyone on the line?
Callers, if you'd like to testify in neutral for AB 391, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair. Caller with last 3 digits 666, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member of the committee, Warren Hardy, representing the Associated Builders and Contractors of Nevada. We just saw this amendment this morning and would like an opportunity to review it and determine the implications. Like everybody who testified today, we're in support of local hire to the extent possible, but we need an opportunity to review this. So thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Look forward to working with the proponents.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the sponsors for any closing remarks.
Vince Savager for the record. Thank you, all members of the committee. We look forward to working with local government entities and keep on keeping on, honestly. Like I said before, Nevadans deserve to build Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll close the hearing on AB 391. I'll remind bill sponsors to please work quickly for an amendment. I expect all amendments from all committee members and everybody in the public no later than really tomorrow morning, because we're on deadline. We have first committee passage this Friday. So I urge everyone to work together, make sure they're getting those amendments in, whether it's my committee or other committees. I'm going to go ahead and 1 minute recess before the work session. All right, the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will reconvene. I know we're having a hunky-dory day, as Assemblyman DeLong noted to me earlier today. And at this time, we will go ahead and begin with the work session. As a reminder to the committee, it is not customary for the committee to take testimony or otherwise rehear the bills during a work session. However, I might invite a witness to come forward for clarification or questions during consideration of a measure. We will have a number of bills that we are work sessioning today. I'll remind the committee that we will be pulling AB 173 as well as AB 333. We'll be work sessioning those at the other time. It is definitely the intent of this committee to continue to work session those. However, we would like some clarifying language on some of these amendments, so we are going to go ahead and postpone that for right now. So at this time, I will go ahead and switch over to our committee analyst, Ms. Jennifer Rudy, with AB 60.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. As LCB staff, I do not advocate for or oppose legislation. I'm just going to walk you through the work session, starting with Assembly Bill 60, which revises the process for the governing body of a municipality to provide notice of the annual assessment roll for a neighborhood improvement project. And there was one amendment which is attached. It was provided by the City of Henderson to allow that notice to be given by electronic mail if requested in writing by the property owner. Thank you.
Members, any questions? At this time, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass for AB 60. I had the motion from Assemblyman Nguyen. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblyman Gurr. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion does carry. And I will go ahead and assign the floor statement to Assemblyman Nguyen. Next, we will go ahead and go to AB 139.
Thank you, Chair Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 139 requires governmental agencies that collect demographic information on race or ethnicity. Thank you. Whew. Shortage of coffee in the room today. To include a separate category for persons of Middle Eastern or North African descent. The only amendment is to add Assemblywoman Thomas as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions? At this time, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass for AB 139. I have a motion from the Vice Chair Duran, and I have a second from Assemblyman De Silva. Do I have any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion does carry, and I will go ahead and assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Miller. We'll proceed with AB 171.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 171 authorizes the public body or its authorized representative to award a contract for a public work for which the estimated cost exceeds $100,000 to the responsive and responsible bidder offering the best value bid if, after notice and a public hearing, the public body or its authorized representative determines that the public work presents unique and complex construction challenges. The measure further sets forth the criteria for a public body or its authorized representative to consider in selecting the responsive and responsible bidder offering the best value bid. The attached amendment provided by the bill sponsor at the hearing proposes to amend subsection 6 of section 1 and subsection 5 of section 3 by replacing the criteria that a public body must use when selecting the responsive and responsible bidder offering the best value bid. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass for AB 171. I have the motion from Assemblyman Thomas, and I have the second from, I believe that was Assemblyman Nguyen? Yes. All right. Do I have any discussion? Vice Chair Duran?
We are still working on some amendments with some of the stakeholders as well on this. So we just want to make sure that everybody's good with the amendment.
And it is my understanding from my conversation with stakeholders that this is an ongoing conversation with stakeholders, and obviously members will recognize that there are two houses, so there's still plenty of time for this bill to continue to have those dialogue. But I think that the intent of the bill is clear, and as is the norm, as veteran legislators will remember, there are oftentimes amendments that'll be made in one or the other houses or both houses, and then at that time we will have the opportunity to concur, not concur, after second house passage. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass for AB 171. Oh, we already did the motion. I apologize. All right, and seeing no further discussion on this motion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Raise your hand for the nays, please. I have Assemblyman Hibbets, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblyman Gerd, Assemblyman DeLong. Perfect. All right, we will continue on with AB. Oh, and the floor statement all signed to Assemblyman Duran. We'll go ahead and continue on with AB 219.
Assembly Bill, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 219 amends 4 areas of the open meeting law: the public comment periods, public notice of meetings, public participation in meetings held exclusively with remote technology, and member attendance at a physical location. The bill provides that if a meeting is continued by a public body to another day, there must be an additional public comment period. If a public body continues a meeting to a day other than the day set forth on the agenda for the meeting, the public body is prohibited from considering any item that is not set forth on the original agenda unless the public body provides the same required written notice, and the bill requires notice of a public meeting to be posted at the building in which the meeting is to be held if the meeting has a physical location. Both of those last provisions are changed in the proposed amendment. The agenda for a meeting that is held exclusively by a remote technology system must include clear and complete instructions for the public to be able to call into the meeting to provide public comment, including without limitation a telephone number and any necessary identification number of the meeting or other access code. These instructions must be read verbally, verbatim at the meeting before each public comment period. Finally, notwithstanding the authority for a public body to conduct a meeting by means of a remote technology system, the bill requires each member of a public body to attend at least 25% of the meetings of the public body each year in person at a physical location designated for the meeting where members of the general public are permitted to attend and participate. And there is an attached amendment to Assembly Bill 219 in your work session document.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions? Seeing none, at this time I will entertain a motion for AB 219. I have the motion from Assemblyman Nguyen. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblyman Taylor. Are there any additional comments or discussion? All right. At this time, we will go ahead and vote then. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, this motion does carry. And I will assign the floor statement to Assemblyman Considine. We'll go ahead and carry on with AB 222.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 222 provides for an employee of a school district who is a member of the Public Employees Retirement System to receive a full year of service credit if the employee works on a scheduled basis, an on-call basis, or any combination thereof for not less than 8 months of the school year. That's as introduced. The proposed amendment has 2 changes, and that is changing it to a member who works 900 hours or more in a school year, and also adding an effective date of July 1, 2023. Thank you.
Members, any questions? All right, at this time, we entertain a motion to amend and do pass for AB 222. I have the motion from Assemblyman Nguyen, and then I have the second from Vice Chair Duran. Any discussion? Oh, I apologize. I have the motion from Assemblyman Taylor. You're both right in front of me. I have the motion from Assemblyman Taylor, and then I have the second from Vice Chair Duran. Any discussion? Yeah, we're a very uncaffeinated committee this morning. I will note for the record, because I had been reached out to by the Nevada Classified School Employees and Public Workers Association, which represents the school employees, the bus specifically classified school employees in rural Nevada, Churchill, Lyon, Mineral Lander, Lincoln, Story, and Douglas County bus drivers. They had reached out, and Elko and Humboldt County support employees, they had reached out just to express their support and apologize for not being able to attend, as they do work during the school day and are not often able to attend our open meetings. So I just wanted to note that for the record because they, at the request. Is there any additional discussion? All right, at this time, I will go ahead and take the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, this motion does carry. And I'll sign the floor statement, says Sullivan Carter. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and continue on with AB 225.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 225, as introduced, authorizes any member of the Armed Forces of the United States, a reserve component thereof, or the National Guard and the spouse, domestic partner, or minor child thereof to request that certain personal information contained in the records of a county assessor, a county recorder, the Secretary of State, or a county or city clerk remain confidential. This was one of several bills introduced this session with similar provisions, but for different groups. And the bill sponsor has provided a conceptual amendment, which is included. I'll note the intent of this amendment, according to the bill sponsor, is to strike certain language specifying members of the military and replace it with language that creates new sections in NRS 247, 250, and 293. The new sections allow a petition to be filed under seal and at no cost by any person who can demonstrate by a preponderance of evidence that a threat to themselves or their families exists and that the threat would be mitigated by an order that allows their personal information to be kept confidential. This amendment would leave in place the provisions currently in state law that allow public officials and certain nonprofit entities the ability to obtain an order upon request and keep that order in place indefinitely. And then there is also an addition on the second page of the amendment, the cleanup at the recorder's request, that is to request for eligible persons uniformity across those three specific statutes, thus enabling consistency across the statutes and eliminate the need for multiple court order templates through the court system. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions? Assemblyman MacArthur, I saw you chatting earlier. Did you have any questions?
No questions. Everything's answered.
It seems like the amendment, the details provided by our phenomenal policy analyst clarified any questions that Assemblyman MacArthur originally had. At this time, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass AB 225. I have the motion from Assemblyman Taylor, and I have the second from Assemblyman Nguyen. Members, any discussion? I personally would like to thank the bill sponsor for working with so many groups in order for us to come together with this one bill on confidentiality. As members of this body know, we had so many bills on confidentiality, and I hope that this will help address the issues that currently exist in statute. At this time, we'll entertain, we had the motion already, so we'll go ahead and take the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, this motion does carry. And I will go ahead and sign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Nui. Congratulations. And we'll go ahead and continue on with AB 252.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 252 requires the Administrator of the Division of Museums and History of the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs to develop and maintain an Internet website related to the institutions of the division and ensure that the Internet website is accessible to persons who are blind or visually impaired, and to consult with certain organizations regarding the accessibility of institutions of the division to persons who are blind or visually impaired. The Administrator is further required to authorize or require a museum director of an institution of the division to establish certain procedures that enable the accessibility of the exhibits in the institution for persons who are blind or visually impaired. The bill creates the account for improving access to state museums for persons with disabilities in the State General Fund to be administered by the Administrator. Money in the account must be expended only to improve access at institutions of the division for persons with disabilities, including without limitation persons who are blind or visually impaired. The bill revises the qualifications of the membership of the Board of Museums and and history by requiring that one of the 5 members representing the general public be a person who has a disability, including without limitation a person who is blind or visually impaired, in addition to being knowledgeable about museums. And finally, the Legislative Committee on Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs is required to study during the 2023-2024 interim any issues that exist which limit the ability of persons with disabilities, including without limitation persons who are blind or visually impaired, to access the institutions of the division. And the conceptual amendment provided by the bill sponsor first is to establish on the record or amend if necessary subsection 2A of section 2 that allows a person with a disability to serve as the representative to the board, not only a person who is blind or visually impaired, and then add similar language. The second and third amendment is to add that language, a person with a disability, including without limitation, a person who is blind or visually impaired, just to broaden the scope of the bill. Thank you.
Members, any questions? At this time, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass to AB 252. I have the motion from Assemblyman Nguyen, and I have a second from Assemblyman DeLong. Members, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, this motion does carry, and I will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Cohen. And we will continue on with AB 310.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 310, as introduced, requires the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry, subject to the availability of funds appropriated for such a purpose, to develop and implement a supportive housing grant program. The program must include a process for applying for a grant to procure and develop supportive housing and fund the operation of a supportive housing partnership. The division must consult with the Nevada Interagency Advisory Council on Homelessness to Housing before approving any application for a grant to procure and develop supportive housing, adopt regulations to carry out the grant program, which must include the criteria for eligibility to receive money and procedures for the submission and review of applications, and submit an annual report containing certain information about the grant program to the governor and the director of the Legislative Council Bureau. The bill creates the Nevada Supportive Housing Development Fund in the state treasurer to be used to carry out the grant program, and makes an appropriation from the state general fund to the Housing Development Fund in the amount of $32.2 million. The attached amendment, in addition to a small correction on line 10 of the bill's digest to change homeless to homelessness per the name established in NRS, the amendment proposes to amend subsection 1 of section 2 to additionally require the supportive housing grant program to include a process for applying for a grant to train and build the capacity of supportive housing partnerships and assess the progress of supportive housing in Nevada, and amend subsection 4 of section 2 to add the chair of the Nevada Interagency Advisory Council on Homelessness to Housing as a recipient for the mandatory report submitted by the Housing Division, and amend subsection 6A of section 2 to further define supportive housing. Thank you.
Members, any questions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass on. Assemblyman Thomas. Oh, I apologize. That was for a question. So at this time, I am entertaining a motion to amend and do pass. I have the motion from Assemblyman Thomas. Do I have a second from Assemblyman De Silva? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Can you please raise your hand if you're nay? So Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblyman Koenig, Assemblyman Hibbets, Assemblyman Gurr, and Assemblyman DeLong. All right, this motion does carry. I will go ahead and send the floor statement to Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to AB 361.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 361 has the distinction of being the only bill without an amendment today. Assembly Bill 361 provides that if a department, institution, or agency of the executive branch of the state government is required to request the approval of the Interim Finance Committee to accept a grant from the federal government and revise a work program to implement the grant, then the entity may, upon submission of the application for the grant, request that the IFC grant provisional approval to accept the grant and revise the work program. If IFC grants such provisional approval, the department, institution, or agency is not required to obtain additional final approval from IFC unless the actual amount of the grant or change to the work program exceeds the greater of the amount provisionally approved by IFC plus 10%, or the amount provisionally approved by IFC plus $75,000. The bill further authorizes IFC to consider such requests during a regular or special session of the legislature. And again, there are no amendments.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to do pass. I have a motion from Vice Chair Duran. I have a second from Assemblyman DeLong. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Oh, was there any discussion? I don't believe there was. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, this motion does carry, and I will go ahead and assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. And we will go to our final bill today.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Assembly Bill 378 requires certain collective bargaining actions for certain groups of employees in the classified service of the executive branch to begin 1 month earlier. Specifically, the bill requires that negotiations between the exclusive representative of a bargaining unit and the representative of the executive branch begin on or before October 1st rather than November 1st of each even-numbered year, and a request for mediation to be made on or before January 1 rather than February 1 of an odd-numbered year. If the representative of the executive branch and the exclusive representative of a bargaining unit do not reach a collective bargaining agreement through mediation within 21 days after the appointment of a mediator, mediation is required to cease and the parties are required to begin arbitration proceedings on or before February 1 rather than March 1st, and the arbitrator is then required to render a decision on or before February 15th rather than March 15th of an odd-numbered year. The amendment that was proposed by the bill's sponsor is attached, and it's pretty straightforward, addressing the concerns brought forward during the bill hearing, including the final provision on the conceptual amendment is to set up a process in the bill where the parties pre-select both the mediator and the arbitrator so that those two are already in place should they become necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass for AB 378. I have the motion from Assemblyman Nguyen. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblywoman Taylor. Members, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion does carry, and I will go ahead and assign this floor statement to Vice Chair Duran.
Thank you.
All right, and this does conclude our work session for today. So we will continue on with the last item on our agenda today, which is public comment. I invite anyone wishing to testify in public comment on issues that pertain to the committee. Every member of the public will be allowed up to 2 minutes to speak on those issues. Do I have anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in public comment? I do not see any. Just a reminder to committee members, please make sure you leave your work session binders here and do not take the papers. They will be recycled. Is there anyone BPS on the line wishing to testify in public comment?
Chair, the line is open and working. There are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you, members. Just a couple of reminders. Anything for members first? Assemblyman MacArthur, you had mentioned some stuff yesterday. No? Nothing you needed to get on the record. Okay. Although we have a big deal. We have a big celebration coming up for Assemblyman MacArthur in a couple weeks. He's turning 40 the second time. So we're really looking forward to that. And I know Assemblyman MacArthur really is too. He's quite a young guy. Just a reminder, members, we will have a work session likely tomorrow. We'll be posting that agenda shortly. And then we will likely be meeting Friday morning. But we would not have to meet Friday morning if I could get all of our amendments in a timely manner. So if you know anybody that has a bill in this committee that wants an amendment, encourage them to do so sooner rather than later. All right, at this time, the committee is adjourned. Thank you.